Hello there! Welcome to the Raiding Guide, a resource for learning how to get past the first couple of difficulty modes, so LFR and Flex if this is Mists of Pandaria, or LFR and Normal if this is Warlords of Draenor, and into progression raiding. My name is Tuskeh, and in this video we're going to discuss a few basic things you need to know about being a raid leader. Now, first of all, let me start by saying this. Leading a raid is a unique experience depending upon your own skills and experience, and the skills and experience of the raiders in the raid. Some teams will need a raid leader that can make difficult decisions, some teams won't. Some teams will need a raid leader to organize things, some teams won't. That being said, raid leading is an important skill that I think everyone should have at least some knowledge of. I wanted to discuss raid leading because in my previous video I mentioned a few things that you should do to prepare yourself for progression raiding. So what if you have a guild that wants to get into raiding together? You'll need a raid leader, and if the circumstances warrant, you may very well be that raid leader. One of the first things you need to know about being a raid leader is this. You are there to help the raid succeed. If that means reminding people to stay focused, then you'll need to do so. If that means dispelling a tense situation, you'll need to be able to do that as well. You'll need to call upon a few traits. First and foremost, you need to be organized. Chances are the raid isn't going to make itself, so you need to make sure to get stuff organized on the calendar, you need to make sure that everyone knows when they're raiding, and you need to make sure that people have a good way of contacting you in case there's an emergency. So Skype, a guild website, texting, anything like that. And you need to have backup raiders, even if they're not in the guild, ready to take spots if things go wrong. You'll need to actually create the raid, hand the right people their roles, give the tanks and anyone else you think can use it assist, and set up the loot rules. This needs to be done really before you reach the first boss. The raid should never be waiting on you to do your job. Second, you need to be able to speak. If you don't have a microphone and you want to seriously raid lead, go and buy a cheap one. As long as the raid can hear you, you're good. Make sure you speak calmly, clearly, and confidently. You need to be able to blend in with the group, laugh and have fun, because remember, you're playing a game for fun. But you need to also be able to say, right folks, we need to focus now. And you need to be able to say things like that without pissing everyone off. Third, you need to be knowledgeable. As a raid leader, you need to be the cornerstone of knowledge and tactics for your raid. You don't need to be the best player, nor the smartest, but you need to have the most knowledge overall. You need to know about every role, and you need to be able to help people with their roles when they're struggling. Regardless of what class and role you play, you need to know every mechanic for every fight in detail, and you need to be able to remember them. Write them down on a notepad if it helps, and watch as many guides as you can. I've linked some great guides in the description below. Fourth, you need to be a team-focused player. Sure, it's fun to compare the healing meters for healing and damage, and it's fun to screw other people over sometimes. But when it gets down to it, raiding is a team effort, and you need to live and breathe that. You cannot be selfish, you cannot be ignorant, and you cannot act like an arse. You need to constantly think about who your strongest and weakest players are, and praise those who do well. You need to approach those who are struggling and see what you can do to help them. If they're struggling with their class, point them at a guide. Read it yourself and talk to them about it. If you have no idea about the class, find someone who knows and get your raider to talk to them. Don't ever just shrug this stuff off. Your job as a raid leader is not just to push a team to victory, your job is to see the potential of your team. Fifth, you need to be able to think tactically. When you're progressing and you're putting attempts in on a boss, you need to be thinking about strategy. What parts of the fight are going wrong? How are people dying? Is the tank swap not happening right? Are the healers struggling with a certain mechanic? Are the DPSs not killing an ad fast enough? Is it the good old are people standing in the fire? Identify what's killing your raid and discuss how to handle it with them. But, that being said, don't be harsh on your raid. While you're progressing, you're learning. Everyone in the raid has room to learn. Everyone in every raid ever, from a freshly dinged 12-year-old level 90 to some of the oldest players in Paragon, has room to learn. Think about how you're handling the fight, and try to work past the thing that's killing you. For instance, I'll use my guild's attempts on Garrosh as an example. When we first started progressing on him, we struggled with the desecrated weapons. After we got on top of that, the ads in Phase 2 became a big problem. But every time we wiped on him, we were learning. And slowly progressing, but we were progressing. Sixth, and this one is very important, be optimistic. This is more of a personal point of mine, and it's also something that I'm guilty of. But any raid that hears any of its raiders say that they think they can't make progress is hamstrung. One of the most important things you can do is to be optimistic about your chances. Never get frustrated with defeat, because defeat is only a stepping stone towards your victory. Think about how you can twist something negative into a positive. Oh, you just wiped to a mechanic. Discuss it. Say, hey, we wiped, no big deal, how can we deal with this? See if you can say, okay, we wiped, but we got this boss down to 40%, which is the lowest we've ever gotten him. We got past that first transition phase very nicely. We just need to do it again. We handled that mechanic really well. We can certainly do this. You did more DPS than normal. Awesome. Your healing was great. Even if you think otherwise, never tell your raid that you think they can't do it. Besides, chances are they'll surprise you. 7th, be inclusive. Chances are your raid will have its own unique style and personalities within it. Some people will be loud, like me, and some people will be quiet. This by no means dictates their worth to the raid, and if someone wants to say something, they have the right to your attention. Make yourself entirely open to suggestions, either over your voice chat, in the raid chat, or via whisper. No one in your raid team should have to suffer silently. Ask for people's opinions. Target the players who tend to be quiet and see what they have to say. Ask what their opinion is. Even more than that, just talk to them. It doesn't have to be about strategy, it doesn't have to be serious. Just get them talking, because if your raiders enjoy themselves, it will make the entire process much easier for everyone. 8th, and this one is tricky. You need to be able to be firm. Not harsh, firm. If you have a problem raider, you need to deal with it. It is your job, your responsibility to the team and everyone in it to deal with problems promptly. Do not put it off, or things will get out of hand fast. Talk to the raiders who have a problem with someone else and give them your assurance that you will not share information with anyone else. This helps a lot if you're also an officer in your guild. Find out exactly what the problem is. Take notes to stop yourself from forgetting points. Figure out a solution. It may not be to remove the problem raider. In fact, you need to be impartial and figure out if the person complaining is in fact the problem themselves. But think about how you can solve the problem. If a raider is underperforming significantly, to the point of hamstringing the raid, go to them and be blunt. Say, look, you need to get better. You need to up your game, because it's having a negative effect on the raid. If they say, sure, but I'm struggling to figure out what my problem is, then figure it out with them. Don't leave them in the dirt. See my point from before. Point them to guides, again, linked in the description, and go over their rotation. Go over their user interface, how they keybind, how they move, how they play, everything to try and figure it out. If they're unwilling to try and improve, if they're negative and toxic, then you need to give them an ultimatum, really. You need to say, look, we cannot afford to have you underperforming like this. If you don't want to improve, then we can't take you raiding with us. But don't mistake that for an ultimatum about improving. If they agree to try and improve and don't show any immediate improvement, don't say, get better or you'll lose your spot. Give them some time. If they continue to struggle, go back to them again and do everything you can to help them. Ask them if they've done what you asked them to do before. You need to be patient, and chances are, if you have to go back to them repeatedly and they can't improve and they are actually trying, they'll be wise enough to realize that the best move for them is to give someone else their spot. This leads me to the worst kind of problem, in my opinion, the toxic pro, we'll call them. This is a player who is skilled, who knows their class and rotation, who knows the intricacies of the game. Your raid is stronger with them in it, because they can do great DPS, strong healing, and know how to tank effectively. But they're toxic in personality. They annoy the people around them, they are hostile, they are vulgar, and they are nasty. This, in my opinion, is worse than any kind of friendly person who doesn't know what they're doing. Why? Because you can teach someone a rotation. You can teach someone the intricacies of this game. You cannot teach someone to be nice. Deal with this on a case-by-case basis, but remember that a toxic player, regardless of their skill level, is a detriment to the raid, and you cannot afford to let that kind of thing get out of hand. If your raiders don't see you doing something about a problem, then they will do it themselves, and that'll normally manifest as either an argument, or they'll just leave the raid, or even worse, the guild. That's bad, and it leaves you with less options, and still doesn't actually deal with the problem for you. Be prepared to lose a stronger raider and have the team hamstrung for a while if it means getting rid of a toxic player. Skill is no excuse for acting like an ass. 9th, Be open and transparent about your process. By this, I mean don't make raid leading, and to a lesser extent guild leading, this big mysterious thing that's behind closed doors, because really it's all bollocks. It's making something mysterious and elusive out of algorithms in a game. Sure, don't go telling everyone what the officers talk about, but don't hide information that can help them. If someone tells you a problem, tell them what you'll do. Say, I'll talk to the officers and we'll discuss a solution. Do so, first of all, and then afterwards tell the player what your plan is. Thank them for coming to you. Do this right, and eventually your raiders will trust you to make the right decisions. 10th, be patient. This is something that every raider will need, but a raid leader especially. It's going to be frustrating as all hell. People are going to bugger up, people are going to get angry, people are going to blame each other, blame you, blame their computers, blame Blizzard, blame the cat, whatever. You need to be able to weather the storm, especially when things are just getting started. Your team will begin very, very rough, and the basic things like tank healing and raid healing will need a bit of time to start meshing. Don't expect to plow your way through these bosses, because it won't happen and you'll be disappointed. Be patient, persevere, and have faith in the potential of your raiders. Push them, do everything you can to help them, inside the raid and out. Try to keep things stable with people knowing when they're raiding. Be consistently awesome, and your optimism and your patience will rub off on your team. Overall, raid leading is tough. You need to know much more than most players, and you need to be able to step up and shoulder the responsibility. You need to be able to be patient, optimistic, kind, understanding, firm, tactical, organized, knowledgeable, team-focused, inclusive, and talkative. But through you, your team will do some pretty awesome things. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you have any thoughts, make sure to leave a comment below and like or dislike the video. I'm always after feedback, so let me know what you think. You can contact me using the links in the description, or just leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to catch my videos as soon as they come out. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck with your exploits in the world of Warcraft.